I've been quite fortunate to acquaint myself with this remarkable couple, EcoArtists Richard Lang and Judith Selby Lang, who live in Marin, California. Each has a fierce interest in our oceans and environment. They actually first met combing a beach for non-biodegradable debris flushed from our trash-laden oceans. They had a similar vision of creating art pieces from the soda straws and shotgun shells to spread the word about the amount of blight we heap onto our environment. Just one recent example of the many projects Judith has installed is Recycle Ryoanji in the San Francisco Civic Center Plaza for their Cherry Blossom Festival of April '07. It was a reproduction of the famous Kyoto Zen Buddhist rock garden, which is centuries old. In Judith's version, it was entirely comprised of recycled materials. Amidst the bustle of San Francisco, it offered a serene pause for reflection. Judith Selby Lang is compelled to create art for the greater good and cherishes the artist's journey. So what is it that compels you to be creative?
I can't help myself. Things happen that require some kind of response. Things have come my way, have appeared on the horizon, and I am blessed to have the energy and the wherewithal to be able to realize them then. So to me, it's not just about hearing the muse. And certainly, yes, one must always attune oneself to the mumblings and the whisperings and the things caught out of the corner of the eye, and to maximize that or to go with it. Because I've had many experiences in my life where I've caught that thing and then gone towards it. I think, sadly, many people either think they're going crazy when they hear the muse and they dismiss it entirely, or they say, oh, it's too much trouble, it's too much work, I can't deal with it. But the artist's call is that you have to hear it, and you have to tune up the volume, and you have to go with it, and you have to make something out of it. Well, I did actually have a significant event at about that 9-10 year point. My folks, I was living in Dallas, and in those days, there was still segregation, but the Dallas Museum had bought a painting by Andrew Wyeth, and it's a wonderful painting of a black man sitting in a chair. His hands are resting on his knees. You get the feeling it's the end of a long day. There's a shaft of light coming across and illuminating everything in a beautiful way. And when the museum bought this painting, because it was of a black man and it was kind of unheard of, and there was a lot of hubbub about it, and many people wanted to go and see this painting. And I remember my folks took me to see it, and there was a long line, and when you got up to the painting, they had those stanchions, and there was a guard there and everything. And I remember when it got to be my turn to stand in front of the painting, I was just absolutely transformed. It was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. And there was something that inside me that shifted, and I said to myself, and I didn't know it until years later, that it was such a turning point, that I wanted to do something with my life like that I wanted to create something that would have such power and maybe would change people's minds. Because to me it felt like a really political painting too, in a way. And many years later, 30 years later, I went back and visited the painting and spoke to people at the museum, and it has continued to be one of their most popular paintings. It's still prominently displayed, and of course when I saw it again after so many years, I completely burst into tears. Well, college was crazy. It was the early 70s. There was inflatables and environment, and all of that was just wide open. And I got introduced to the idea that you didn't just make art to hang on the wall, but you made the walls themselves. As an artist, you're responsible for the whole thing. Not only what you represent, but then how the viewer enters into the space and interacts with it, so that you can create all of that. It wasn't just, following my own muse in a very private way, but connecting my muse to everybody else's, and hopefully evoking in others their own sense of musedom. In my projects, I search for ways to speak about the beautiful, painful, and transformative realities of our human condition. For years, I've been an art instructor in convalescent hospitals and senior centers. To better understand the challenges of Alzheimer's disease, I did portraits of my students. A portrait is not just a drawing of the outer person. It is a summation of the life lived, the lines and crevices, the events and junctures of experience. The themes and revelations of portraiture are powerful. Through inspired rendering, we can really see another person, and in them, reflections of ourselves. The artwork itself, though, I consider it to be only an artifact of the questioning. It's not about, for me, it's not making art. It's never about making art. It's more about finding an answer to a question. And the artwork is the way to find the answer to that question.
You never say, I'm going to make art.
No, I never say I'm going to make art. No, because the art is, to me, somewhat irrelevant. It's my own process of self-exploration. That's the thing that excites me, that moves me forward, that makes me want to make stuff. But the time in between projects can be pretty horrible. Not horrible, but lonely and longing for a big question that, because for me, when I find that question, it's so energizing and it leads me into new territory, and I'm grateful for it. But then once the work is completed, then I feel a responsibility to show and share it, which means, putting it out in the world, finding its audience, finding its place that it will be exhibited, and then nurturing it, moving it on into the world, and so on. So it has a life beyond me that I am responsible for. And so in this cycle, this kind of nutritive cycle that we're talking about of germination and lying fallow and all of that, the showing and sharing is a critical part of it, because that also feeds back into the creative process.
Another project of Judith's is this installation at the San Francisco Federal Building for Earth Day, April '08. These are footprints.
These are ecological footprint. That's a terminology that's used in measuring the amount of resources that various countries use. The environmental message is so depressing that people become immobilized. And what if we could get everybody dancing? And so I thought, well, I'll make large dance charts on the plaza. And the material is also all recycled. This is carpet foam, and as you can see, the nubby model texture is foam scraps that they grind up, sanitize, and then press and use and reuse and reuse again. So it's actually the perfect material for something like this.
Yeah, I love it with the gravel.
Yeah. This building opened about a year ago. It has won all kinds of environmental awards, and it's exemplary in its ecological footprint and in its features like operable windows, for example, such a concept.
They had a little trouble with it though, didn't they, initially?
Yeah, they have, but it's worth the effort. But this plaza is always called out to me for something, and so I called the building and got a hold of a fellow who said, well, you're the public, it's a public space, you present a proposal and we'll consider it. Now this is just a snapshot in time. This is all changing kind of as we speak, but the United States isn't seeming to get any smaller. That's part of the problem, is that everybody's wanting more. I appear in my outside life as a very regular person. I always dress as a regular middle-aged instructor, and you would never know if you were standing next to me in the grocery line that I was an artist. There was nothing to indicate any kind of strangeness of any kind. I look absolutely straight and regular and normal, but inside there is just this reeling, roiling imagination, and I appreciate having this cover that protects me from invasion by people that might misunderstand, and allows me to kind of go on in my crazy little way. And then I have, this really wonderfully supportive, creative home life with Richard, where I can, you know, have this quietude and that's necessary, and then a really deep and satisfying relationship where I can show and share my first tentative scribbles and help give shape to it in this protective environment, and then it can move out into the world. So I'm really grateful for that as well. There's the muse, and then there's the mentor. And I have been very blessed in my life to have a significant mentor in a person named Carl Hertel, who was, if one gets only one great instructor in one's life, one should be overjoyed. And I did find that person in my early college years at Pitzer College of Carl Hertel. And he guided me into a new world as an artist and helped me claim that label for myself. And then not only in college, but then we kept on a correspondence beyond college, and I would send him announcements of my exhibitions, and he was always encouraging and supportive and wanting to know what was up, and he would let me know what was going with him. And so to have that friendly relations with someone who was also a serious artist. You know, more generates more. It's like the more you do, the more you're given, the more comes your way, and you just end up just working all the, I mean, Richard and I, we just work all the time. You know, we're always working. My hands are always, but I'm grateful for that. And I just say to people, just get busy. Listen to the mumblings and mispronouncing of things, the things you don't quite hear. Catch those things out of the corner of your eye, and go with the things that you maybe even mistrust yourself for. Allow that to happen, and you never know what you're going to find.